Get started. All right, welcome folks. My name is Tom Lamar, and I am chair of the Somerville Bicycle Advisory Committee. We're going to go around with a roll call, community representatives and ex officios, and then we invite any guests to introduce themselves. And as an icebreaker, tell us something about your setup for biking in the rain. Like at first, as I said, my name is Tom Lamar, and I'm chair. My main rain biking setup is wearing a baseball cap of some kind and my Clever hood, which is very rainproof, but is like a little bit, mine at least is like a poncho, and I kind of flail around a little bit when I'm taking it on and off. But when I'm wearing it, it's great. All right, next up, I do not see Lena or Ted, so we'll pass it to Adrian.
Yeah, hi everyone. I was not prepared for the rain biking home today, so I just had to take a quick shower and wash off all the dirt. So, but I did have my coat, which did cover like my back, so I didn't get as dirty as I could have. But I always like change my shoes when I'm biking, so at least my outside shoes got dirty versus like my work ballet flats. So easier to clean.
That is a great tip. I always forget to think about my shoes. Next up, Kat.
Hey all, some audio issues, so dialing on the phone as well. I think the bike setup is I just accept that I'm getting wet and just try to stay as warm as possible. So a lot of wool. So it means I smell great when I come out of the rain.
Nice. Some of the different takes, and your audio is working great, at least on this end, just so you know. All right, I don't see Gregory Ely, so over to Alex Frieden.
Hey everyone, Alex Frieden, Ward 2 resident, member of the committee. Definitely as much showers past gear as I can get my hands on. It is the only rain gear I've found that actually works and is not like wrapping yourself in 3 inches of rubber.
In progress.
Yeah, heard good things. Appreciate the advice. Do not see Catherine, so next up, Paul.
Paul Morgan. I have this big yellow poncho. I think it was $20. Works great.
Nice. I do not yet see Amanda, so next up is Maria.
I just wear a typical rain jacket and pants that happen to be both black, so don't take my example. And my helmet's black too, yikes.
All reasonable, you know, we need our street to be well lit. I do not see Ian, so we'll go to our ex officios. First, Councillor Burnley.
Hello. Yeah, also don't take my example. I wear a jacket, but with rain, I often have less gear because my glasses get so covered in rain that I take them off, and I'm like, oh, as long as it's not about to hit me, I'm safe.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, looking at the forecast is a very legit rain tip as well. All right, next up, Viola.
Viola Augustine, City of Somerville, ex officio. I love, and it's not for like super heavy rain, but you all remember those little bicycle covers, Somerville bikes. I love to put that on if I know that it's starting to rain, and at least gonna keep a dry butt.
Yeah, there's like a little cover on the bike seat.
Yeah.
Greg.
Greg Hannafin, Somerville Mobility Division. I just got my first pair of rain pants after many years of just having wet pants. And wore those tonight for the first time, and they were great. So I'm a convert now to rain gear.
And Rashika.
Rishika, I'm at the City of Somerville Mobility Division, and I just started biking last year, so I still don't step out in the rain yet, but I will use everything I've heard to do when I do.
Don't see Eric Weissman. We'll go back to Ted Feldman, if you could introduce yourself and tell us any tips for biking in the rain.
Yeah, hi, Ted Feldman, Secretary of the Committee. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Tips for biking in the rain. I'll try to make this not a not a product placement, but I found myself volunteering last year for the last Harbor to the Bay ride in what turned out to be a nor'easter and invested in a showers pass rain jacket, and that made all the difference. Um, Also, I personally prefer dealing with the rain in the summertime when at least it's warm. I've bike raced in the winter, in that like early March rain where it's like 37 degrees and raining, and that was just miserable because at a certain point you get wet and cold, and in the middle of a race that also equals dumb, at least for me. So try not to do that, and just, yeah, wear layers if you have to. My two tips.
Thanks, Ted. With that, that's our members and ex officios. I can confirm that we have quorum. Staff, could you invite any attendees to unmute themselves in alphabetical order and give them a chance if they'd like to introduce themselves, tell us any rain tips or anything in particular that brings them here tonight. If they're generally interested, that's a great tip.
Do you want to call on names?
Yeah, could you call Era and then Eli and then John?
All right, Era should be able to.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Ara Shore, Ward 6 resident and frequent guest to the committee. I'm currently calling in from Colorado where there's snow, not rain, but I have been loving seeing how people out here adapt. And I think my favorite thing so far is teeny tiny chains for bike tires, which I love. So.
Better taking advantage of remote meetings. Next, could you give Eli and then John a chance to speak if they'd like?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, Eli Goldman, Ward 5 resident. Something that hasn't been mentioned, extra socks. Always a great thing if I can remember.
Is that double socks or a change of socks?
That's a, yeah, second pair, of change of socks. Yeah.
Good tip. Next up, John, if you'd like to say anything. John, we can't hear you currently. All right, with that, feel free to post in the Q&A later if you'd like, John. Yeah. And I see member Catherine Lane. Welcome. We're introducing ourselves and sharing any tips for biking in the rain.
There you go. Hi, sorry for being a few minutes late. I was biking in the rain, home from work, and I'm pretty wet. Okay, my tip for biking in the rain is, I'm sure people have said it, but like the big pants over your pants. So when you get there, you can take off your wet, gross pants and you are clean underneath. And I will augment that by my tip for biking in the winter is to get a wool skirt, like the kind of fitted, stretchy, like shape of a pencil skirt, but wool. It is like a scarf for your thighs and for your bum. And that's what I wear all winter. It doubles as kind of a fender where if there's stuff picked up, you just take it off when you get to your destination over your pants, and it's a hoot.
Thanks for the tip. All right, so that is our roll call. Our next item is approval of meeting minutes from last month. Thanks, Catherine, for taking the minutes. Before we move to approve, any questions, comments, suggested changes? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? I see motion by Catherine. Do we have a second? Seconded by Maria. All members in favor, please raise your hand, say aye, otherwise make your vote known.
Aye.
All right, hands down, meeting minutes are approved. Next up, call for upcoming outreach events. Any events coming up in the next month or so that we should be aware of? I know we'll cover later the specific projects meetings or public meetings coming up soon. Counselor, with your hand up.
Yeah, I was wrestling with it. Just as a reminder, I don't know if this is going to come up. The 27th, counselors are going to be putting in their budget priorities for this year. And we, as you all know, we do not have the power to add to the budget. We do have the power to cut from the budget. These are non-binding items, but they give us a chance to offer our ideas to the administration as the budget is kind of moving into its final phase. So if folks have ideas about that, feel free to reach out to your local counselors and your at-larges and the mayor.
Thanks for flagging that. I see a hand raised from Era. Can you invite her to speak?
Yeah, sorry, 1 second.
Yeah,
Mention
Era and then Adrian. Go ahead.
the March Streetwise talk on March 19th is Ryan Postlethwaite, the Director of Engineering. And then I heard that there's going to be another bike event kickoff. I'm sorry, bike month kickoff in early May that Mass Bike is going to take the lead on. So hopefully there'll be some more details on those soon, but those are two upcoming events.
Great. Could you share any more about the bike month kickoff as you hear more?
Yeah, I sure will.
Thanks, Era. Adrian.
Yeah, not exactly like a tabling event, but the city's putting on something called Sustainable Sips, and it's on March 18th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Winter Hill Brewing. And it's for climate ambassadors, climate justice organizers, sustainability folks in Somerville. So I think it could be a good place to meet other people that bike and talk about what we do.
Adrian, could you repeat the name of the event?
Yeah, it's called Sustainable Sips. I'll put a picture in the chat, like the graphic. I couldn't find it just by like searching online, but was sent an email from the Sustainable or the Office of Sustainability from Somerville.
Great. Anything else? Not seeing anything. If you think of anything else, feel free to drop it in the chat whenever, or just drop it in the Q&A if anything comes to mind. All right. Our next item is upcoming committee officer elections. So as I mentioned, approximately every year, the committee holds elections for chair, vice chair, and secretary. So I mentioned this last month, and mentioned that folks who are interested in those positions can reach out to me either at a meeting, via email, etc. And in April, we'll have those elections of anyone interested in the positions of chair, vice chair, or secretary, which is currently filled by me, Lena, and Ted, respectively. So yeah, I've mentioned that I'm interested in stepping down at the right moment for the committee. And I think if folks are interested in joining as an officer, I'm very happy to talk that through and step down to create space for folks in general, especially for anyone new on the committee who might be interested either now or later. If folks are not interested at this time, I am also up for serving for another term and then stepping down whenever to make room, but would very much love to hear from anyone interested either now or reaching out to me in advance of next month's meeting. Yeah, any immediate questions or comments so far?
Tom, are you able to share any information about how the election process works if there are like multiple people who are interested in positions?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am in theory, for better or worse. We have, yet to have a time where multiple people have an interest in the same position so far. But as I understand it, the way the process works is it's sort of an affirmative vote by the committee to endorse the person or the slate for the given positions. So what it means is that if multiple people are interested in the same position, kind of procedurally, rather than at any point saying like, is your vote for this person or this other person? It is rather like, does the committee make a motion to take on this person as chair, vice chair, or secretary, as it is. So if multiple people are interested and kind of come up at the same meeting, in theory, procedurally, I believe whatever like happened last out of those positions would take precedence. I don't imagine that specifically happening, but basically putting it out there, I think it is kind of more likely that if multiple people are interested, it seems very likely that we would have room for anyone interested to serve in officerial positions, either now or the not too distant future. So definitely encourage people to reach out to me, even if they're just thinking about it. If they're interested now, great. If people's reaction as well, I don't know about right now, but I could very much see that in the future, and I want to learn more. Either one is very much appreciated, and would love to chat more. Greg, anything procedurally you're aware of that I missed?
No, I think, yeah, just, this is, anybody is welcome to, put their name up for, any of the officer positions. And again, that's chair, vice chair, and secretary. So, regardless of your, the length of time that you've been on the committee, if you have interest, yeah, please let Tom and, the liaisons know.
Cool. Any questions or comments or anyone interested at this time? And any general questions about the process or what the positions entail? Cool. And also just to clarify, I intend to stay on the committee as a member, but want to kind of create room for folks to drive their own priorities and bring their own spin on the committee. Great. If anyone's
Hey, Tom,
interested-
before we move on,
Yeah.
I think this is a good time to make an announcement on my end. I am no longer co-liaisoning, if that is a word, probably not, with Greg. And that is why Rishika is in the room, and she will be working with Greg to manage the bicycle committee. I'm still the ex officio, and we're working on changing that so that Rishika will also take that role over. And just until that happens, I'm happy to log in so that we get the quorum, and personally also interested in professionally, obviously. So, but it's been great to work with you all, and I don't see that as an end in all of this. You all know that I will stay at Mobility and do my job, and probably be here to talk about projects or other things that relate to my direct work.
Thanks, Bill. And yeah, it's been definitely great working with you over the years, and definitely trustable. Run into you at digital events and run into you at Aeronaut and other places.
Sorry, can I just clarify for the notes? You're not going to be both the liaison and the ex officio, or?
So currently the switch is that Rishika is the other liaison. And just for everybody's understanding, the liaisons are really there to make sure that procedurally everything works correctly. We're also managing the agenda and uploading the meeting minutes and all that. And then we have the ex officios who are there as representatives from different departments and parts of the city. And currently Greg is the ex officio for the OSPCD, and I'm the ex officio for the mayor or mayoral office. And so that is a longer process to change. And that also because we have officially voting rights and contribute to the quorum. That's why I'm saying, you know, we have, once that switches to Rishikar. But for right now, Paul, I am still the ex officio.
So the liaison is switching in the near term, and the ex officio will take longer, but is also changing.
Correct.
Is that
We're
it?
working on that. And the liaison already has changed. So Rishika and Greg are the liaisons.
And so in my understanding that for, you know, things the committee wants to execute on, for example, I think outreach folks have a lot of questions about how to get involved in various like upcoming outreach around some upcoming projects. They would most likely reach out to Greg and Rashika. But for kind of official like forum and membership purposes, the ex officio, which is still Viola, counts.
Yes, and yeah, you should all have Rishika's email now. She was included on the recent messages that have been sent out for the committee items for this month. Yeah, continue to send messages to me and now Rishika for anything that pertains to committee business.
All right. Any questions, comments, reactions? But yeah. And feel free to reach out whenever you do have any questions. With that, seeing nothing else, I'll move on to our next items. I'm just kind of looking ahead at the agenda. For what I see is kind of the main focuses. We have one focus on sub-team organization overall. Would kind of encourage us to focus more on stuff coming out of the outreach team for this particular meeting. Folks have more stuff there. I think there might be more active stuff to focus on, and I think that overlaps with Rashika's focus. And I also kind of anticipate next month being more engineering heavy. And then later we'll get to the city update. I think the main item will be an update on the Safe Streets ordinance. With that, let's head into our sub teams. And I guess, yeah, I'd love to hand it over to outreach folks, telling us about their recent meeting, recent events planned, and other areas we're interested in partnering with the city on.
Sure. I'll go. I think Kat's trying to get off mute. Yeah, so we met up or had an outreach event with a few bike orgs in Cambridge and Somerville at Aeronaut last Friday, and a few of you here helped table. So thank you for tabling, and thank you for those who showed up as well. I don't know exactly how many people were there, but it looked like 50 or 60. Like there was a lot of people at one point. And so I think it was really great. We had a lot of engagement with the map. We asked people to put Post-it notes on the map saying where they have concerns and where they want to celebrate good bike infrastructure. So I think Amanda took a bunch of pictures. I don't see Amanda on here tonight, but or maybe she's in the room. Usually Amanda goes in person. No? Okay. Well, we have some pictures. I don't know if we have evaluated them or like put them in a spreadsheet, but it would be interesting. We definitely should share that with the mobility department to give you kudos, and then also maybe go towards where attention could be directed. So yeah, I think that was kind of it. I would say that some of the outreach materials are out of date and so need to be updated. I had to just put a piece of tape over the old mayor because it was an old sign. But I think we weren't handing out a ton of things. We were more just engaging, asking people and telling people about what the committee does. So I thought it was great. Anyone else that was there want to chime in on the event?
I thought it was really great that there was the Cambridge bike people too, and just yeah, like they were saying how it would be great for us to do more collaboration, even with like planning things, and like design and everything. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah, maybe Greg, can you tell us anything about like the current status of collaboration on like borders of bike lanes? Border between Somerville and Cambridge?
So, like, if there are any active projects, is that the question?
Well, is there like any active coordination? Like if there's something that's on the border of Somerville and Cambridge, like how is that handled, or is it just kind of like, you know, do you guys let each other know that you're working on bordering bike lanes, or?
Yeah, so for any projects that are kind of near or at the border, we typically will have coordination with Cambridge. So a past example is the Webster Ave protected bike lanes. I think that those went in maybe not exactly at the same time, but there was coordination between the two cities on striping because we don't want it to be too inconsistent when you're going from one to the other. We have the Elm Beacon Connector project that there's going to be an open house next week. And that again at the Elm Street Elm Beach intersection is kind of again at that Cambridge Somerville border area, and we've had discussions with Cambridge there. I don't know if there are any, I think around the Beacon Street area too. So short answer is yes, when we have projects that are abutting or near Cambridge or any other municipalities, we make sure to collaborate, and we have done gone through similar conversations with Arlington as part of the West Broadway project. So yeah, always like to make sure that we're on the same page with our abutting municipalities.
Great.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Adriana. There's a small child screaming in the background that you may hear. The one other thing I'd add is there are a couple of things we talked about as well in the committee itself. And Gary, it's probably a question to you as well. As one thing we wanted to do last year, but we didn't get to, but we were interested as a group doing this year, is potentially doing some sort of walk that the committee can lead for the Elm Street and the connector. Ideally between this meeting and the next meeting. Just trying to figure out when those two meetings are so we can fall between, and then trying to figure out who within Somerville we should coordinate with, because I think obviously we would lead, but I know it always benefits also to have city staff there. So something we could potentially talk about offline, but just want to ask who's the right person is. And then one thing for the group too that came out of this is I owe everyone on this committee, we're going to set up a Google sheet that just tracks what are all the events coming and with tabling sign up. I just need the list of everyone, so I know we're not supposed to do the Google Groups email address. And we'll get that out, and that's also a good way for us to coordinate outside of these meetings and also just track like so that the tabling load is shared. But I know Adrian and Amanda, thank you for testing out the tabling, and also thank you, Viola, for the map. That was really helpful to have.
Kat, you can reach out to me and Rishika about trying to coordinate a Elm Beacon Connector walk. I think that would be great. And yeah, we can discuss what makes sense for timing, whether it's to try to squeeze it in between now and the next meeting. That might be difficult, but it may not need to be that urgent, and it might make sense to hold it when it's a little bit warmer too, but we can discuss those details for sure.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else from the group is here. I think Paul is here. I don't know if there's anything else, Paul, you wanted to add from the group.
No, we had some great cookies at that last meeting. So anyone who's interested in our sub team, there's great snacks.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, our next meeting is on Wednesday, the 26th, at 7 p.m. at my house. So if anyone wants to join the committee, please reach out, get an invite.
One question for y'all on the subject of tabling material. Have you as a sub team looked at updating or expanding tabling material?
I think that will be the topic of conversation for the next meeting. Yeah, we haven't really looked at it too thoroughly. We weren't giving out a ton of materials at the last one. So kind of like what is our goal of tabling? And it could change for each meeting, but I'm sorry, for each outreach event. But I think understanding what the goal is and then if there are things we want to be giving out. I mean, we could just have a flyer, like a flyer in a stand that has a QR code for our socials, and that's where we can be directing people to follow to get more information. And kind of on that note, we also, I know there's an Instagram that maybe we can revamp and own and use for socializing, because I think that's also a good spot as we grow our follower base on Blue Sky.
Adrian, Mobility also has, a number of evergreen materials, like for our bicycle network plan and Vision Zero. And then we usually have flyers for any ongoing projects. So if any of those things make sense for you all to have at your tabling events, definitely reach out to us, and we can make sure to either get you some printouts or at least get you a link. So we'd be happy to work with you on that.
Thank you.
On that note, is there any capacity for the city to fund like handouts like bicycle lights or similar? I know sometimes we've gotten them from kind of nonprofits or similar that we partner with, that we've been able to hand out and make sure that people have lights that they wouldn't otherwise think about it. But the committee, of course, more or less does not have a budget.
Yeah, we do have, I think, some small budget for like swag, and that's how we'll have like the bike seat covers and some other things. So I'll have to check in on what we actually can purchase, and bike lights we might end up having some budget for that, but I am not positive. But I can follow up on that.
Well, yeah, if there is opportunity there, I can see that being great to amplify the tabling efforts. But if it's too hard to do in terms of process, I'm sure that's fine too. But yeah, it could be great thing to hand out. Maybe longer term, but somebody, I think it was Kat, was interested in a traffic garden, or what it would look like to pursue advocating that. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, I think that was a bunch of us. I think thank you for re-raising that. We Adrian had done some great outreach. I think, or was it Amanda who did the outreach to? It was Amanda who did an outreach to I'm gonna get the name wrong. Essentially, the Safe Streets coordinator, and it sounds like there's some funding available for actually establishing a permanent traffic garden, which is like a place where for those who don't know, I'm not super familiar with it either. The idea is that where like children can come and learn on how to navigate essentially streets on their bicycles. It can either be something very fancy or something very like low touch, just paint in a parking lot. And one thing we wanted to also talk to the city about, it sounds like they typically give funding to the municipality, not to the obviously a non-governmental committee. We would love to talk more about if and where, and we know there's one in Boston. I think that's what we talked about in the last meeting, but want to see potentially if there was any appetite for doing it in Somerville. and if there's any good potential areas. We were talking about, like, there's the tot lot that's down on the Lexington Park on the community path, right? That's already a really good place for children to do very low key biking. And wanted to see if there's if and how we could have that conversation to set something up for Somerville, because it's something I don't think we currently have in the city.
Yeah, definitely. Again, yeah.
Got
reach
a
out to
growing
us.
email list for you, Greg, for sure.
That sounds great.
Okay. I think it's probably also, if this had come up in years past with this committee too, obviously we're not aware of it. If previous committee members had like gone down this path and it didn't work, would also love to know why it failed, so we can kind of avoid those missteps.
Not that I know of in my time. I don't know, Viola, you have, or Tom, know of anything similar?
I don't recall any kind of significant effort towards a traffic garden before. I think it's kind of come up in passing. I think it is listed somewhere as sort of a laundry list of suggestions as part of Summer Vision 2040, if I recall correctly. But to my knowledge, the committee has not kind of like seriously pursued a traffic garden before.
Yeah, I also didn't know of anything that we've done.
Any other outreach topics? I am seeing none. So for our other teams, I know Lena was feeling sick and wasn't able to make it tonight. So I'll just ask in general. I think the other teams didn't have a chance to meet this month after all, but do we have any topics for engineering, Ted?
So yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't feeling well earlier. Otherwise I would have met, but I think I'm gonna post something for the third Thursday for next month, and I think there was one set of plans that just came out and I'm blanking on. I have not had a chance to look at them, but I know we talked about this the other day, Tom.
Cool. I know kind of coming up, I think soon the engineering committee will be looking over a plan for Elm Beacon connect with the city and McGrath Boulevard from MassDOT, and probably kind of presenting highlights and recommendations for the committee at next month's meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be great. So we'll take a look at those. Thanks for the reminder.
Cool. Anything else from sub teams?
And that's not my business, but just for the notes. So you're gonna have a meeting the third Thursday in April. Are you gonna have another meeting so that you can discuss those two projects before the April general meeting that we're having?
Did you say third Thursday in April or in March, Ted?
Apologies, I meant the third Thursday in April.
That's
So
what I have. So then how are you, but you're saying you'll be presenting on those two projects at the general April meeting?
Yes.
Yes, that's the goal.
How are you but you're not gonna have a meeting you're not gonna have an engineering sub-team meeting before the general meeting, which would be in the first week of April.
Right, so the sub-team meeting will be the 20th of March, Paul, and the next full committee meeting would be the third of, yeah, so my apologies.
Okay.
I think the feedback I got from interested parties was one was advance notice, and two was just, I think there was some interest in that third Thursday. There was also some interest in right before the committee. So how to reconcile that, it's a little tricky, but I feel like we could always try different times of the month each month, and see if we converge on one that works for everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Ted.
Yep.
And yeah, I can partner with you on finding a good time for that coordinating. All right, anything else for sub teams? Seeing none right now, I'll pass it over to the city for the city update. And definitely love to kind of spend some time on the Safe Streets Ordinance reporting.
Yes. Okay, is everyone seeing the screen? The slide deck? So we don't, we're not gonna go into too much detail on the Safe Streets Ordinance reporting. Have a couple of slides here with some overview information. Mainly because Rich and I personally, were not as closely connected to this effort, but happy to give some time for the committee to discuss, and if there are any questions, we can take those back and then come next month prepared to share that information. But at a high level, the Safe Streets Ordinance requires annual reporting by March 1st of each year. So this year was the first time it was done. The report is online now. We've linked it here in this slide deck, which you should all have. And just as a summary, it's includes previous year's progress as well as forecasting out the priority network. Also have an updated bicycle network plan page. And the graphic on the right is one that was put together for the report that is just tracking kind of the progress that has been made. So 10% of the priority network for the bicycle network vision was previously constructed. An additional 5% was constructed in 2024. And we have 85% of the priority network remaining. Here is the planned construction for 2025. So what we've included here is the projects that are on the priority network, as well as other protected bike lane projects that are not on the priority network. Some of the bigger hitters you can see are the McGrath Highway project. And the Medford Street McGrath Highway frontage. We've also got another half mile for Middlesex Avenue, which is not on the priority network, but is a decent chunk. And the total forecasted mileage for the priority network for next year is a little over 3 miles. So, Viola, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, it all sounds good. And obviously, if people have questions, happy to try to answer them.
Sure. Yeah, any questions while we're here? There's kind of one reaction that I had, not a negative thing, but it is sort of interesting seeing how the mileage happens to work out. That it's kind of, you know, very much dominated by one individual project. But I do appreciate seeing the city count up the mileage of a lot of the kind of smaller developer mitigation or similar projects as that adds up, and keeping track of that.
Is the Webster Ave one the one that's mostly done on Webster Ave heading north?
I believe so, Alex.
You don't believe so?
What was it?
Webster Ave is the one that seems to be mostly done at this point? Or is this a new one?
We'll double check. Because that was also, yeah, give me a second, or we'll
No, it sounds,
confirm
I
that, yeah.
just couldn't hear you for a second. Thanks.
Actually, out of curiosity, could you give any more context about some of the kind of like shorter units of mileage on here? What it means if it's like a kind of a quick build project on here? Does that typically mean like is the Curtis Street quick build listed here on the third item? Is that kind of part of changes on Broadway overall, or kind of what's the background of like the very short individual projects around here?
Greg, do you want me to go through the line by line?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. So why don't I do that? Central Street is the one that we probably all have been writing on already. It's part of the Spring Hill project. It's between Summer and Highland. However, it's not 100% completed. As you probably all have experienced, it's pretty bumpy. The final pavement in many places is not finished. Like there's a part that is already a permeable pavement, and this year the contractor will go in and basically remove any non-permeable asphalt on the path and replace it with permeable. And also the transitions will be smoother because the road pavement is not finished. I will just focus on the priority miles and not the non-priority. The Curtis one is the stretch between Broadway and Electric Avenue that is currently already painted as a buffer. And we're planning to add separators there to make it a truly protected bike lane and not what we right now call unprotected bike lane. The McGrath, the roofer, you all know, we've been waiting to have DOT put flex posts on the painted bike lanes. So we're hoping that they will finally do that this year, and then we will call that a quick build protected bike lane. The Medford Street McGrath Highway ramp is actually our approach, at least on one side. And so this might be a little complicated, but the McGrath, there will be a stretch where DOT is not connecting, and that's where it's an elevated, the elevated highway over Washington Street. So what we're planning on both sides to connect that, and that is the access, like where you go down from McGrath towards Union Square currently. That is the one between Prospect and Somerville Ave, and then continue that all the way to Somerville Ave. At that point, the DOT is picking the project up again and giving a protected bike lane up back onto McGrath. And then in the other direction, the same thing, the DOT project will stop coming down from McGrath, going towards Union Square again, in the other direction. Middlesex is not a quick build, but a non-priority. And then the Somerville Park Street between Beach Street, that is part of the intersection improvements. So we will get 2 floating bus lanes, and we will get protected bike lanes as part of that in either direction. And that's right between Park and Central, and then Beach Street is the next small residential street. Washington Street, 210. I think, oh yeah, that is also part of intersection improvements, and that is right in front of the current police station, right outside of Union Square. And again, we will have protected bike lanes in both directions, just on that little stretch between the police station and I think it goes to Merriam. I don't have the names of the street in my head there. And then Webster Avenue is in that Boynton Yard area.
And from the intersection list, those were not all planned to go together, right? Like the Bow Street, Walnut one, that was planned for later.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't have the final designs there yet.
Thank you.
Well, for anyone not familiar, I think the intersection refers to a package of a half dozen-ish like spot improvements at targeted intersections that they reviewed maybe a year ago or so.
Yeah, and there is a webpage that has the intersection designs if you're interested.
Any other questions on this?
I often get questions about the School Street intersection of the community path. Are there any talk about following up with improvements for that intersection, which has a lot of issues.
Yes, that is a project coming out of the engineering department, and they are currently working with a consultant to design that intersection.
Cool. Any chance you have news on timing of that?
No, we don't have a timing for that yet.
Other questions on here? Greg, could you actually go back a slide? I wanted to just call it that like there's a couple different ones here that are kind of developer mitigation, which I understand it mean, or sorry, the 2024 progress.
I don't have a slide for that, but we.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the actual ordinance, not the slides. All right, maybe go ahead. If we have time later, I could pull up a copy of the report itself.
Okay, was there something that you had pulled up that you wanted to share right now?
Sure. Yeah, I guess what I was wondering in general, looking at the ordinance, for anyone following along, you get a somervillema.gov/bike network to look on here, looking at the 2024 progress and kind of the different parts adding up. First, a lot of solid products on here. I wanted to also mention one thing I found kind of interesting was the various like kind of smaller developer mitigation projects, which as I understand it kind of refers to when like a building is being constructed there and part of mitigation, the developer rebuilds the sidewalk, and these days typically builds like a cycle track as well. It's one thought I had. I was kind of curious for any reaction to folks who have like ridden through any of these. I know we overall covered the floating bus stop. I think this one is kind of the floating bus stop we covered, where some of us had concerns about kind of the angle of that a bike has to turn to go from the painted unprotected bike lane to enter the floating bus stop there. So it's kind of curious either if now anyone has kind of ridden on these and has any reaction, or if not, kind of encourage folks to try out some of these and just see what their experience is in these, kind of one block cycle tracks that, by necessity have to start and stop, but can sometimes be a little jarring in my experience.
The 599 Somerville Ave. I don't have the same negative reaction, but I feel like the paint on the ground is creating some of the awkwardness. And so if the paint was shifted over a little earlier, then I think that would help with the issue.
The paint approaching the.
Yeah, the paint approaching it. It's sort of, if you were to follow the paint, then you'd be taking a pretty sharp turn right before that, and so then you'd have the worry that you might have impact with the vertical pole. But if you were to do a more gradual turn, then I think that'd be less of an issue. It's hard to talk about without the visuals. But
Yeah, so basically starting the taper sooner.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't find the 599 Somerville Ave nearly as challenging as the Washington Street one. Where I think you have, because it's straightaway, you have a bit more time to make the kind of chicane that you need. The Washington Street one, you have very little space to make that, and compounded by any snow or trash that we saw this winter.
Out of curiosity, Alex, is that the kind of beginning of the Washington Street one as you're leaving Union Square, or somewhere along from Washington to Beacon?
I think there's actually two. There's one kind of in Union Square when you first take that Washington Street one. The second one, which I actually find is harder to do, is the one in front of the Argenziano School, one has to go out from the street level one back onto the cycle track. It's also you're going downhill, so you're going a bit faster, which compounds challenges around slowing down, etc.
Right, I don't see any other comments right. Oh, Catherine, go ahead.
I'll add that, I don't think it's on this list, but we were discussing Webster Ave and there's that new little cycle track coming into Somerville on Webster Ave, and I have only positive things to say about that one. Good experience.
Agreed.
Thank you, Catherine. Maria, did you have a comment?
Yeah, on the slightly awkward turns, I think the other one would be on like Washington and Dane coming from Union, where like the turn is super sharp. There's like I don't know, the concrete part is literally a right angle. And I probably missed this in another meeting, so forgive me if I did.
Adrian?
Yeah, there's someone talked about this at the bike social, but also I just recently rode on it on Highland Ave when you're turning onto College Ave. There's like a turn lane to the. I don't know if we've talked about this one before. Oh, right there. Sorry. Is that the one that you're talking about? Mobility quick build.
Approaching Davis, and there's like a bike signal. The bike lane is to the right of a right turn lane.
Yeah, that one. Okay.
Go on.
No, that's great. That's if that's the one that we're talking about, then perfect.
What was the feedback from the person at the end?
Oh, just that it's awkward. I mean, the painted lane, the old painted lane now has the white plastic dividers going straight through it, and it's still painted kind of a turn lane where the biker is supposed to go. It's clear that cars are not supposed to go there because of the white plastic builds, but I think it's just not as clear that that's where the bike is supposed to go. I think it's safer how they did it, but it just painting, signage, something along those lines would be helpful because it was just a little confusing, and that's what someone else was saying.
Yeah, I know we've also heard from some folks about visibility of the bike signal there. There is kind of a near side bike signal, that no far side bike signal. So it can be kind of hard to see when you actually have the bike.
Yeah, this person at the bike social actually said that it seemed like the bike signal did move. I don't know if it needs to move anymore, but they said it got better from when they last saw it. So
cool. Well, glad to hear that. Maybe I'm out of date on that one.
Yeah.
Mobility, do you know if there are any further improvements planned here for Highland? I wasn't sure if this is a project where the flex post went in before restriping or similar.
I am not aware of any immediate projects, at that location, but I can follow up on that question.
Cool. Or yeah, I don't know if we need a specific answer, but just want to make sure that you heard the feedback there.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else on the 24 progress or 2025 planned? One come from me, I wanted to say I appreciate the shout out of the McGrath Highway ramp. We're looking at plans and seeing a few gaps before. I'm really glad the city's thinking about connecting those gaps there, and I think that's a great thing to prioritize.
And the Somerville Ave between Park and Beach is really a conflict zone. So really looking forward to that, having some more protection.
Yeah, it's really neat seeing some of these individual ones. I think we kind of know that stuff that is purely quick build usually can't do floating bus stops. And so that bus stops usually end up being a gap in kind of purely quick build pedestrian bike lanes. So it's great seeing some targeting of opportunities to build floating bus stops overall. Anything else? Seeing nothing, I will hand it back to mobility, continue the city update.
So there were a couple of things, follow-ups from last time, questions that the committee had. So one was about bicycle crash rates. So last month we shared some of the data from our annual key performance indicators. And we had shared the data on the left about the trend of reported bicycle crashes, and then also the longer term trends of our annual volunteer bike count. So in response to a question from the committee, we did use those two data points to throw together a relative crash rate for bicycles, and that's the chart on the right. What this is showing is that similar to kind of the raw numbers for bicycle crashes, we do have a downward trend in our relative bicycle crash rate around, from 2020 through 2024, it has kind of hovered around the 60% of our 2013 crash rate. But I think what this demonstrates well is that even though the number of crashes since 2020, 2021 have gone up, that coincides pretty clearly with an increase in ridership. So we did experience a dip in overall ridership in those pandemic years, and that most likely explains the pretty significant drop in the absolute number of crashes. So this was a interesting kind of data exercise. So I appreciate the question from the committee. Another question last month about bike racks at Argentiano, and we were able to confirm that those racks were installed. There were 6 new racks installed last summer, actually, before the beginning of the school year. There were 4 new racks in a new location, which are shown in the picture here. And then there were 2 new racks that were installed adjacent to the existing rack. So these were all in the area of the circle. So I'll go through some project updates. Spring Hill, no major changes there, but work will be resuming soon in the spring. So hope to be able to share some updates in the near future. We do have a couple of significant updates for our state projects. The Mystic Maffa Bridge project, they just released a new design for that project, and the presentation and recording are available on the project webpage. So I would encourage committee members to take a look at that, and if that's something that you all are interested in discussing at a future meeting, there will probably be an opportunity to provide some comment and maybe make some minimal changes to that project. So take a look at that. And
but on that note, I'll mention specifically for folks interested, I think MassDOT somewhat expanded the scope from what they previously considered. And I think previously the project was going to exclude Lombardy Street, kind of a north-south street connecting with East Somerville into Assembly there. They've since expanded the scope to include a two-way protected bike lane on the east side there along that underpass into Assembly by the mural. So kind of interesting expansion that, you know, definitely some details to look at, but a very welcome improvement overall. So some interesting stuff to look over there.
And then as Tom mentioned, there are some key dates coming up for the McGrath Boulevard project. So there will be on March 25th, a virtual meeting where they'll be presenting project design for that project. There's also a new project webpage. So it sounds like the next engineering subcommittee meeting, those plans will be available. And that might be another project to dig into at next month's meeting. I don't think that the sign up or link for the public meeting has been published yet, but there is a calendar posting that I imagine they'll update with the meeting information that's available. And then some updates on our city projects. For the complete streets projects on the left, no significant updates. Western Pearl, we're still in progress for 25% designs, and we'll probably be able to share some new information about that in the coming months. West Broadway is currently out to bid, which is very exciting, and still expecting those final plans to be published in the near future. And Tough Street still in the bidding process as well. Mentioned at the top of the meeting, the Elm Beacon Connector project, which is in design now, has the concept design open house next Monday at the Kennedy School. So staff will be sharing the concept design, and we'll have some different stations where community members can come and ask questions and learn about different aspects of the project. So would encourage anyone who is interested and available to come check that out. There will also be a number of other engagement and feedback opportunities in the weeks following the open house for that project.
I see a hand from Alex, and then afterwards, I'd also like to give a chance for any members of the public to comment if they'd like to. Alex?
Yeah, I'm not seeing Western Washington here, which is probably like 99% complete, but still is missing precast concrete precast concrete curbs on it, which was part of the design. What the city staff, is there an update for that?
So I don't believe there is any update from last month. Those will be coming, but I don't know if we have an update on the specific timing at this point.
All right. Thanks.
Any members or of the committee or members of the public who'd like to comment, feel free to raise your hand. If you recognize Era.
Hi, going back to the Safe Street Ordinance report, there's a lot in the out years, 2028 to 2030. And I'm curious how the city is thinking about some of the preliminary activities that need to happen to make sure that those projects are actually constructed in those years. So for example, if there are traffic studies, specific expensive time-consuming things like special studies, not kind of your typical stakeholder engagement or design process. Do any of those rely on specific studies? And if so, how are you thinking about making sure that those are prioritized when they need to be?
Viola, do you have a?
Sure, Era. I mean, we are aware of those studies, and we are starting to talk about those years and trying to make sure that we have enough staff and funding and resources to do all of the work that needs to be done. So some of it is still shifting, and as we know, we have a very different parameters to work with. So, yes, we know those traffic studies have to be done, and we are trying to plan ahead as much as we can right now.
I guess, will you be, not in this year, but in future years, be reporting as those milestones get closer to the construction deadline? So for example, Highland, right? If Highland needs a traffic study in 2026.
So, I mean, and like any of our projects, once we know we have the resources to do so, both staff and funding, we will include all of that in the actual project.
Okay.
I know that sounds a little vague, but that is actually what is going to happen. Once we know we have the funding for Highland and we have the go ahead to do it, then we will immediately set out to do all what is necessary to complete the project.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, related question on that note, I know the city is committed to protected bike lanes on Highland, but I don't see that listed on the ordinance reporting slides. Is that because it's not part of the priority network, or am I missing
Pretty sure it's
Highland?
listed under the 28 to 30.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Right. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee or members of the public? I am seeing none. With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thanks so much, folks. All right, have a good night and stay dry.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very
Thanks, you
much.
too.
Good night, everybody.
Take care. Good night.